Hi, I'm Pamela Windle from Smarter Change.
And I'm Catherine from Arcadia Physiotherapy.
And welcome to the 3D Woman podcast.
This is a podcast dedicated to women's health and knowledge, focusing on evidence-based scientific therapies and interventions with an holistic approach.
Please remember, a podcast can never replace for medical or professional assessments and diagnosis. So if you have any symptoms or issues, please go to your local registered healthcare provider for support.
Now, on with the show.
Okay, so welcome to our podcast, 3D Woman, and our expert today is Wendy Capewell, and she works with couples, helps them get over that bumpy bit in the road and help them find really healthy solutions. So welcome, Wendy.
Hi Pamela, it's really nice to be here today. Thank you for inviting me.
Fantastic. So Wendy, we're going to talk about all things about relationships, aren't we, today, and the modern woman and how she may be feeling at every stage of her life, depending where she is. But it's all about her relationship with her other family members. And so that's what we're going to explore today, aren't we? So, but first of all, I thought it'd be really good for you to explain what is a relationship specialist and what drives you to do this work.
Okay, well, I don't want to label myself as a relationship counsellor or a marriage guidance counsellor, or I feel there's such a stigma about it and people really shy away from those labels. So I really call myself a relationship specialist, not only because that's what I specialise in and it's my real passion, but I want to get away from that stigma, that feeling that I'm the expert and I can solve all the problems or make people feel uncomfortable. I want to make it as easy as possible because it can feel really, really threatening when we talk to someone about something that's so personal as our relationship. And I want to try and take some of that away. I can't take it all away because that's people's feelings and perceptions, but I really want to make it more comfortable for people. And that's my sense really, because I think there's nothing worse than feeling that you're going to be challenged or judged even, because we don't always get it right. And I think we can miss a trick really, and I think we can really lose out on our relationships just by getting a bit of support or a bit of guidance, or just talking to someone impartial who's not emotionally attached and isn't going to take sides.
Yeah.
So if I could tell you a little bit about me and why I got into what I do.
Yeah, I really want to know that.
Okay, so it started with my own personal story, because when I was 23, I met who I thought was the man of my dreams. We got married and I thought we were going to be together forever. That was it for life. I was really committed to that. And at first, everything was great. We didn't have much money. We were struggling. We put a deposit on a house and that wiped us out completely. But we had fun just building our family home together, putting it together. And it really was fun. It didn't matter that we didn't have any money. We worked together as a team and we enjoyed each other and our lives. And then our two beautiful daughters were born and it felt like life was really good. And then kind of like the real-icing on the cake for us was what we managed to save up and buy a lovely house in the country. And it just seemed that everything that we'd planned to do, we're only missing the roses round the door, you know, the bit, the romantic love, but it all felt just so magical and just good. Yeah, of course we had our ups and downs, as every couple do, but it felt okay. It felt we were happy. But then after about 10 years, things started going wrong and we just lost our way somehow. He just came to me and said, I don't love you anymore. I want a divorce. And my whole world just fell apart. I was so distraught. And I just didn't know where to turn. Neither of us knew where to turn. We didn't have any help. We didn't have any support. We didn't know where to go to try and resolve it. And I just felt that was so sad that we then we limped along for a few years, but not knowing how to do it and feeling so embarrassed and so shamed that we'd failed.
Yeah.
And there were so many missed opportunities, because when you think about, because we parted, there were all those things that we couldn't share. We couldn't share all those wonderful things that every couple, every family wants to do, sharing their milestones, whether it was the school plays, whether they'd won a competition, at sports day, we couldn't even share those things.
Yeah.
And then kind of those, the driving test, passing their driving test, they got older, and then getting engaged, and the wedding. I mean, yeah, we stood in the church, but we weren't able to gaze into each other's eyes and go, look at our lovely daughter, what a wonderful day it is. It was a very strained relationship. And then moving on to grandchildren, all that sharing, that joy of grandchildren, which is so special. And I just don't want that for any other couple. I want couples to be able to feel that there's somebody there that can help them through those situations, that they can have the help that they need when things just go a bit wobbly.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of people must feel like that, when you get married. I remember when I got married, and you feel that's the partner for life. And when we had Nicole, our daughter, and and everything's good, and we'd built our own house, and he was kind of climbing the ladder in terms of his job, and he was earning more money, so we had more cash spare to really enjoy ourselves. And it did go wrong. And I know what you mean about the sports days at school and the school plays and all of that, and the holidays as well, the holidays that you don't share together as a couple, and Christmases and New Year, those sort of things. And it does change things, doesn't it? But as a result, I'm who I am. So I've learned a lot of messages from that, and my daughter's fine and she's confident. So even though that does happen, it's not the end of the world.
No, it's not the end of the world. Obviously, I agree with you. We do function, we do get on with life, and it is, I think as women, we just learn, we get on with it, and you're so right. And some relationships aren't meant to last for a long time. Sometimes they're just not repairable. And that happens when couples work with me. It may be that they just decide, well, actually it's not going to work. It's not going to be the right thing for us. So it is about deciding, or at least exploring, whether or not, if you really love each other, whether or not you can make it work. But I agree. At times we don't always get it right, and we're not with the right person.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Okay, so then how do family dynamics have an impact on relationships? For instance, if you are in your 40s or even 50s, and your children are teenagers and they're really challenging, how does that impact on you to maintain an intimate relationship with your partner?
Well, teens are tricky at the best of times. They really are quite challenging, aren't they? All their hormones rushing around and them trying to find their feet in the world. And I guess you have to start early on in your life with children. Put those boundaries in. Make it clear that your relationship with your partner is really important. And it's not just the family relationship. I mean, those dynamics are different with every family member.
Mm-hmm.
But I've heard women say, but, our relationship is the family relationship. And they don't differentiate between the relationship with their partner and the one with the family or the one with the children. So I think it's really important to let the children know that your relationship is with your partner and that you two need time together as much as the family need time together. Making it clear, no, you can't always be with us. No, you can't always be the one that all the attention is focused on. And I think it's really important as well that you both talk from the same hymn sheet, because I've seen teenagers put a wedge between their parents. They know how to play us. And then it creates issues between mum and dad.
Yeah.
And that's not good. That's really not good. Yeah, of course we're going to have different ideas about how the kids are brought up or whatever. But I think it's really about being supportive to each other and letting the children know that the rules are the rules.
Yeah.
And if it is about that being intimate and having that space and time, then yeah, it's about respecting each other's privacy so that the teenagers have their own space and they know that they're not going to be invaded and their privacy is going to be respected. But also knowing that mum and dad have their own boundaries and you don't just walk in on them, and that mum and dad do have time together. I'm saying mum and dad, but I don't know how else to put it right. But yeah, we need as adults to have that sense of privacy and our own time. And even not just the relationship, but I think we all need that special time on our own. It's so important that we have our own space, time to recharge, and that little bit of time for ourselves.
Yeah. And interesting that you said it needs to start early because, when we have a newborn baby, it's all about the baby. You forget who you are as a woman. Everybody can see the baby while you're pregnant. It's all about you while you're pregnant. And then once the baby's arrived, it's all about the baby. And, I guess it starts from then, doesn't it? How you define yourself as a couple and how you define yourself as a family.
Yeah, you're so right, Pamela. I so agree with that. And yes, when we've given birth as women, and our partner says, "Well, how about it?" Whoa, you gotta be joking, because there's no way that you want any form of intimacy. Every part of your body is probably really tender. You're absolutely so tired and exhausted. And when your partner says, "Well, come on then, how about it?" Way. But I think if we push our partner away at that point and say, "Yeah, you've got to be joking, bleep, bleep, bleep," they're going to feel really rejected. And so I think it is about acknowledging our partner's feelings and not saying, "Well, that's off the menu completely and don't come near me. My boobs hurt. My private parts really hurt." Acknowledging, because we have to understand that most men, they show their love through their bodies by making love to us. And it's acknowledging that is so important, that we say to them, acknowledging their feelings. And I know you really, really want to show your love. I know you care about me and I'd love us to be together, but right now it's not the right time. It's all too sensitive. So
Yeah.
I think it is really acknowledging them.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, from a hormonal point of view, obviously, I'm going to interject that into any conversation. But,
Yeah.
hormonally, and I think, and this is what I teach my clients when they come for hypnobirthing, about the changes in hormones immediately after the placenta is born. Women's hormones change dramatically, and once the uterus starts to shrink back, and so hormones also play a part in that. The hormone oxytocin is there about bonding, and it's about survival of the baby, and that's what women are programmed to do. So not have intimacy in that way, within the first few weeks and months of giving birth.
Yeah. Yeah, and it is that struggle with the hormones, but I think keeping the communication open and talking to your partner. I want to say communication. I think there's several words here I'd love to reiterate: boundaries and communication. Talk to each other, listen to each other.
Yeah.
Really, have those lines open, because if you don't, and you shut your partner away, then that you're on the road to kind of disaster, really. And yeah, it is about understanding. It is about talking to each other and how are we going to deal with this. And sometimes even you can just accept that you can have a cuddle.
Yeah.
I mean, that's important too, isn't it?
Yeah,
But
definitely.
yeah, we are exhausted after giving birth, but it can then create such a rift that goes on for years if we're not careful.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, that's literally leads on to the next question. So what are the warning signs, if there are any, that, things aren't quite right as they should be, or you want them to be?
I speak to so many couples who come to talk to me and they say, I didn't know there was anything wrong.
Gosh.
Yeah, that's really hard. And I in my own situation, I didn't know he felt that way. I didn't know for me, there was no idea there was anything wrong. When my husband said, that's it, I don't love you anymore, I want a divorce, I was really shocked,
Mm-hmm.
because we weren't talking to each other. He wasn't able to tell me how he felt. And I guess neither of us, we just didn't know how to do it, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
So I think it is, if you just get that sense of there's something not quite right, it's almost trusting your instincts, trusting your gut feelings. If you just get an inkling that things just aren't the way they were, maybe he's not paying you as much attention as he used to. Maybe those little niggles have turned into bigger arguments, or you're constantly having that niggly bickering. Is he working longer hours or spending more time out with his friends than he did? Are you just talking about the day-to-day routine of life instead of spending that time that you did when you first met, talking about your dreams and aspirations and really being interested in each other?
Yeah.
If you've lost that, I think there's signs, but I'd say check it out.
Yeah.
Not in an argument, not with what's the matter with you then, because that will just fire up a real worst argument, and you're not going to get a good response. It's kind of sitting down and saying, do you know, I feel there's something not right between us. I wonder, do you feel the same way? Is it my imagination? You might find that there isn't anything. But on the other hand, you might also find that your partner says, do you know what? Things aren't the same as they were, are they? What are we going to do about it?
Yeah, that'd be perfect, wouldn't it?
Wouldn't it just?
Yeah.
That is the perfect solution. And we don't always get that. But it is, I think, just talking, constantly being able to talk and hear what your partner has to say rather than shutting them down. Because too often, I think, women want to talk and they'll talk and talk and talk. And men go into their man cave. And the more we push them, the further they go back into their man cave. And the more they go into their man cave, the more we feel frustrated and want to pull them out. And you're in a loop then and get nowhere.
Yeah.
So it's that understanding, isn't it, of each other.
Yeah, definitely. Brings back memories of when Nicole was quite young, because my relationship ended when she was 5. And I remember Nicole saying to someone, well, Mummy and Daddy argue all the time. And I just remember thinking, oh my God, do we really? I wasn't aware that we were arguing all the time, that she saw it and heard it, not that it was like big, major arguments or anything like that, but she was fully aware of what was going on. So that was a bit of a shock for me. And I felt so guilty that we did this in front of her as well, not knowingly.
Yeah, and I think that's what I say, we don't recognize it. We get caught in, I think life is so stressful these days, we're trying to juggle so many things, and we get caught up in that routine, that kind of going to work, getting home, trying to cook a meal, ferry the kids here, there and everywhere. And we don't get time for each other, but we just get into that conversation of you put the bin out, what do you want for dinner conversation, and we lose it. But why did we get together in the first place? We wanted to be together because we love each other.
Yeah.
So it's something about bringing that magic back, isn't there?
Yeah. Would you say it was the same for same-sex relationships?
Yes, and I'm so conscious that I'm talking about a man and a woman, but I guess it's easier. But I that was the one thing I want to point out, that yes, it can be same sex. So we don't want to disregard that by any means. It was just, yeah, I was conscious of that. I think it is the same. I think that the stresses and strains of life, it goes at such a fast pace now that we just don't have that time for each other. I also think we have greater expectations.
Yeah. And where do you feel that comes from?
Several generations. You think, well, when I go back to grandparents, great-grandparents, that generation, all the woman wanted was a roof over her head and a hard-working man. Someone who would put food on the table. What he was looking for was almost the kind of basics of what was expected of each other. So anything else was a bonus.
Right, okay.
But now we want so much more. We expect somebody to be our best friend, our soulmate, that they can help with all of the decorating. They're financial wizard, by the way. Our lover, our best friend. I think I've said that. But it is, we're looking for so much more in somebody. And one person can't meet all our needs. It's impossible. So that's where I'm talking about expectations. And expectations, like one of you comes home from work and you think, oh, I've had a really stressful day. And you just have that expectation that the children are going to be in bed. They've had their bath. They're all clean and nice and just ready to be kissed goodnight or whatever, when they're little. That the house is going to be tidy and the food's going to be cooked. And it's all going to be lovely. You're going to have a lovely, relaxing evening. Walk in the door and the wife, presumably, or the woman, she's tearing her hair out because she's had a really stressful day. The kids have been sick all day. They smell of vomit. The whole house is clothes and toys all over the floor. Or if they're teenagers, they've left everything. They walk in the door and they just dump their clothes as they walk, trail, shoes and then their bag and their coat, and it's everywhere.
Yeah.
She's had a really stressful day trying to do her job at work or, out or in the home, and there's no food, not even in the fridge. And that can spark an argument. That can spark a real row because whoever's walked in the door has had that expectation that everything's going to be wonderful. So expectations, yeah. Expectations of the other as well, or of life. That's a real fundamental of having those expectations and then being let down. Yeah.
It's really hard, isn't it? I think.
Yeah.
Because I've heard people say, oh, I expect my partner to be like my dad, or or my grandfather. I've heard women say that, I want to meet someone that is like somebody else who they worship. And I think that's a bit tricky.
Yes. Well, I guess you've got to really think about what qualities or what beliefs or what values that they have that you're looking, or what you're looking for. It's the core beliefs and values, I think, are the bedrock of any relationship. And then you could go search for somebody. They've got to be in line with your own to some degree. What you really want from life, rather than, I know the pheromones play a big part and we get attracted to each other, but that doesn't, they cut off after that romantic stage, and then you're left with that daily routine. And if you haven't got that daily living with each other, and if you haven't got those things in line with each other, it's going to be tricky.
Yeah. And actually, if somebody's on the pill when they meet someone, because that changes your hormones as well. And
Yeah.
so if you come off the pill and you then have a normal menstrual cycle, a normal cycle, then, you know, we change of who we're looking for throughout our cycle. So towards the end of our cycle, when we're feeling a little bit more, you know, that we need to nurture ourselves, we tend to go for people that have more softer features, more rounder faces, that are a little more cuddly, that, you know, is going to look after us. But the beginning of our cycle, when we're approaching ovulation, we want a he-man, you know, we want to get pregnant. Our body wants to get pregnant. And so we want, you know, the guy with the chiseled chin and the muscular shoulders, you know, to sweep us off our feet. And that's what we want. So if you meet somebody when you're on the pill and you come off the pill, that might change who you're actually really physically attracted to, or even that you want to be with as well long term.
That's really interesting. Yeah. And I agree. It is all about that, those hormonal changes. And you're far more of an expert in that area than I am. But yeah, so right. Because being on the contraceptive pill will affect our hormones and our level of testosterone and estrogen and so on. So that's a really good point, Pamela. Yeah.
It is interesting. So what about the woman then, who is, you know, that generational woman that's got teenagers, that living at home still, and she's also got elderly parents that are aging and are more demanding as well. They need social care, they need, you know, attention. What about her that's stuck in the middle? You know, what would you recommend for her to keep her relationship with her partner healthy, but also that she doesn't feel overwhelmed with having to divide herself between potentially teenagers that are still demanding and then aging family members too?
That's so hard, isn't it? That is so hard to manage. And I want to say that straight, first of all, before I even begin to go anywhere with it, because it's juggling, and it's very easy to sit back and say, well, you should do X, Y, and Z. But we have to understand that's a really tough situation to be in.
Yeah.
And as women, we are nurturers, and therefore it's more likely to fall on our shoulders to do the nurturing part and try and solve other people's problems. And I think the first thing we need to remember, and it's come so hard, I know I'm guilty of it, is to ask for help. I'm very guilty of not asking for help.
Yeah.
We can't do everything, because you know what? None of us have got, well, I haven't, I'm sure you haven't got a Wonder Woman outfit in the cupboard
I
that we
might.
can don and be able
That comes out on special occasions.
That's another subject completely.
It is.
But I think it's just remembering that we can't do it all. And that asking for help there's nothing wrong in asking for help. There's nothing wrong in saying to the teenagers, how about you helping out? Or can you do this? Oh, yes, they'll grumble and they'll whinge and they'll whine, but that's tough. You know, having a family conference, being able to chat to each other around the table and just explain to everybody in the household, look, this is tough. I know you need X, Y, and Z, and so-and-so needs X, Y, and Z, and we've got aging parents, but just talk, how are we going to manage this? How can we get round it? Because we all want to have a happy life. What can we delegate as mums, as women? What can we delegate to others? If it's about aging parents, who else can help? Are there siblings? Are there other friends or relatives? Are there other organisations that could help out? And I think, yeah, we have to remember that we have to put ourselves first. And I'm going to ask you a question. Do you remember the safety talk that we get when we're on a plane, Pamela?
Oh, yes. Yeah.
Right. What do they say to us about the oxygen mask and what we do with it?
They always say we need to put our own oxygen mask on first.
Because
I can't remember. I just know why.
Right.
Well, so that you can help others, so you can help people around you.
Exactly. You did know, really.
Yeah.
We're so glib about it. We forget. And I caught you on the spot because I didn't check you out first, because so many people do say that to me. I don't know. Well, if we don't have the oxygen, if we haven't got a supply of oxygen, we can't be of any help to anybody else. And that's the same for us in every situation. When I ask people, okay, list down all the people in order of importance of who comes first in their life. Who not, we're not talking about a burning situation, burning building situation. I'm talking about who do you put first? And you know what? 90% of women put themselves at the bottom. But we can't help anybody. We can't be there for anyone if we don't look after ourselves first, if we don't take care of ourselves first.
Yeah, definitely.
And I want to kind of just run that home to everybody. It's not about being selfish. It's about self-care.
Yeah.
And then I think it is about the relationship. You can build that, keep that relationship going as long as you work together and you do have some self-care. Because if you're exhausted, you can't be there for your relationship. It will get neglected.
Yeah.
Because you're rushing around trying to be there for everybody else.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, some really, really good advice there, Wendy. And I obviously work with women, don't I, like this as well. Not relationships, but in terms of putting themselves first. And something that I use called a web of support, and like, who's the friend that you need to have fun with, or a friend that's there for you to have a cry with, or like if your parents need some social care, explore that. But what you said about sitting down with a family and really exploring the options and delegating, so important. There was a recent newspaper article called Russian Woman Syndrome. I don't know if you saw that. Basically it was saying that women today are really struggling hormonally compared to their mothers or even grandmothers, because they're literally rushing around. And this rushing woman syndrome is because, like you said, most of us think we're superwoman, and we're not. We can't do everything. It's impossible. And as a result of rushing around so much, this is actually impacting on a hormonal level as well for women as well.
That makes sense. It really makes sense, because the rushing around, obviously we're not taking care of ourselves. We're probably not eating properly. We're not nurturing ourselves. We're not taking care of ourselves. And our stress levels for a start will be way too high. So yeah, that's really not good, because if our stress levels are too high, as you know, it has such an impact on our bodies. So I totally agree with you there. That's really important. And we women need to remember that.
Yeah.
Because we can't part exchange our bodies like we can a car.
No, that's good. I like that.
Our bodies are the vehicle that we travel in for our whole lives. So we do need to take good care of them.
Yes, we do. So this is something that I hear a lot of women say, and it kind of follows the last question I asked you, Wendy. And that is, how do you get your teams or other family members to pull the weight? How do you get your voice? How can you ask for what you want? And I think a lot of women that feel like they can't ask for what they want, there's some fear around asking about their want. Maybe it started from when the children were babies and they've been conditioned into not asking for what they want because it's never been fulfilled. And then, we are conditioned to what we see and feel all the time, aren't we? And so, what sort of advice would you recommend to a woman? How would she overcome this?
I think that starts much earlier on. I have this theory that after the baby follows the placenta, and then follows a huge package of guilt that women carry around with them forever after. And I think it starts very early on. We have that sense, let alone the stories we picked up when we were children from our growing up, and all that baggage we're carrying around from all those stories or messages that we received when we were younger. So it's a tough one because we find it very hard to speak up and be heard. And if we got those messages when we were younger of that we weren't important, that our voice didn't count, and I think as women, that message is a lot stronger rather than men. Men are seen to be leaders. They're seen to be more important generally in society. So I think it's a tough one. And it is hard to find our voice. Every person, I guess, has to find their own way. But it is, I think it's quite a complex question you've asked there. I think it is about building our self-esteem, building our confidence. Maybe things that we can do to help ourselves find our voice is maybe journaling can be quite useful. Reminding ourselves of what we're good at and why we're good at stuff. Writing down all those things that we have achieved in our lives or achieved on a daily basis, and they don't have to be huge.
Yeah.
So even if it's, well, I did speak up to my boss today. I did explain how I felt. I think that's a really big one. You know, it doesn't matter how big it is. It doesn't mean our achievements have to be that we climbed Kilimanjaro. It's our own achievements of what those small steps that we've taken to build our confidence and recognize how good we are, because it took me a long, long time to be able to say to myself, do you know what? I'm good enough.
Yeah.
So it's a really hard one because I can't give it a straight or a glib answer here.
Yeah.
It's much more than that for building our confidence and being able to speak up. Because if we're always shouted down and we're used to that behavior, we find it's very hard to take those steps and say, do you know what? I'm okay. I am good enough.
Yeah.
So I'm sorry I can't give us a quick answer or a solution on that one.
Yeah, but I guess it's not one thing, is it? It's a combination of lots of things. But it is something that I hear, from the women that I work with, that they feel like they can't ask for what they want. And there's some fear around it. So it is about conditioning through society and, what we've lived through as well and what we've experienced as women as we've got older. But like you said, journaling is great. It's a great way to get in tune with yourself as well and really understand, like you said, about building your inner confidence, about the things that you're good at, just the basic things. You might be fabulous at making an omelette or, that your family really enjoy. But I guess that's where you might need some expert help in, isn't it? If you feel that you don't have a voice and you can't actually speak up, that's where you would then seek help from somebody like yourself or somebody like me as well.
Yeah, and I think that's a really good point. If we don't feel we've got that voice or we don't deserve it, sometimes working with, as you say, professionals who can help and guide us, I think is really valuable. Because you're right, we end up feeling just we're not good enough. We haven't got the right to speak up, and society's really played a huge part in that. And although we're supposed to be equal in society, we know that we're not. And I think certain cultures, it's even less so than it is like it is here in the UK. I think other cultures, women really are seen not just as second-class citizens, but third-class citizens.
Yeah.
And even if your background, even if you were born here or your country of origin is a different, those strong messages are still there and are much harder to fight.
Yeah. But like you say, get some help if that's how you're feeling, definitely. So how do you work with clients, Wendy?
I'm so aware that people find it really hard to talk about personal things. It's really scary for them. And I admire anybody who takes their courage in both hands and want to make a change to their lives.
Yeah.
So one of the ways I know that people find it very hard to contact me and open up. That's lots of personal stuff, and lots of feelings come up for us, don't they? We feel ashamed, we feel failures, we feel we don't want to talk about our personal lives. It's not something we normally do, especially with a complete stranger. I've written a book, and it's published on Amazon, and it's called From Surviving to Thriving in a Romantic Relationship. And within it, there are exercises as well. There's some ideas, there's some thoughts. It's a very down to earth. It's not a woo-woo book, kind of. It's very basic, common sense stuff. And there are exercises that you can do in there as well. So that's available, as I say, on Amazon. I've also developed an online course, one that is delivered to your inbox in your email. And there are exercises, there are videos, there's MP3s, there's some information sheets. And that's delivered as a 5-week course. On top of that, you get a Q&A call with me once a week where you can ask any questions. And anybody who doesn't want to be identified, they can email the questions in advance and I'll answer them on the live Q&A. So if there are issues that have cropped up in the course, or if they've got issues that they just want to ask questions about in their relationship, or just for themselves about relationships. Yeah. So that's another way I've developed. So, but people can do things on their own or with their partner, and it's less intrusive. Right. For those who really feel happy about working with me and would like to, then yes, I offer one-to-one. And either they come and talk to me at my home, which is offices I can sometimes feel can be a bit clinical and put people off. So I work from home because I've got some nice comfy sofas, and people feel that it's easier to talk to me in a relaxed situation. Yeah. Or if they can't and they live a distance away, then we can do Skype calls or Zoom calls. They're not as good, but at least people can work from their own home and they don't have to travel, and we can organise a time that suits them. Yeah, that sounds great. So what is your website? How can people get in touch with you? Right. Well, my website is yourrelationshipspecialist.co.uk, and my email is wendy@yourrelationshipspecialist.co.uk. Fabulous. And is that where people can go to download your mini course that you do as well, or is that separate? Probably best to contact me for that one, because it's not advertised on there at the moment. But yeah, contact me and we can talk it through, and I can direct you there and go through it. Yeah. Right. Okay. And so if they want to work with you one-to-one as well, contact you as well. Yeah. And there is somewhere on the website where you can actually contact me. There's a little contact button at the bottom where you can contact me, email me, and arrange I offer a free session of free 30 minutes on the phone to talk through issues and learn more about how I might be able to help you. Or they can make an appointment as well. It's all on the website, so they can do that. Wonderful. Thank you so much, Wendy. It's been really insightful spending some time with you and really understanding what you do and how you really help couples to either stay together or go their separate ways. But nonetheless, it's like a really valuable information that we need to know. Well, thank you so much for having me on your call, Pamela. I've learnt some things from you as well, because obviously you've got some really expertise, so thank you, and I've really enjoyed talking to you. Thank you. You're welcome. Thank you too. You can hear more of our podcast on SoundCloud and Podbean. If you have any questions, you can email Pamela at info@smarterchange.co.uk
and Catherine at mail@arcadia-therapy.com, or find us on Facebook.
If you've enjoyed the show, please share on social media, and thank you for listening.